This meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now called to order. We will start with roll call.
Phil Block.
Carolyn Watson.
Monica Webster.
Jane Aris.
Kelly Aramaki. Sorry about that.
Okay, next is the land acknowledgement. As board president, I will read the land acknowledgement. Okay. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish, including the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We are committed to our ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance. Next, we have the introduction of the student.
And I'm going to delegate this responsibility to the principal of Highland Middle School, Anissa Bashi.
Thank you, Dr. Aramaki and directors. My name is Anissa Bashi, principal of the Highland Middle School. And thank you for welcoming us today, our student speakers. But before I introduce them, I just want to acknowledge the community, the dual language community that's here today to support our student speakers. We have staff members and administration from Lake Hills, Stevenson, and Sammamish. So thank you for our community for being here today. I also want to introduce Miss Sharon Corpus, who is their dual language SLA teacher, and share that Sharon was a teacher, or I'm sorry, a student at Highland when I was there the first time. Wow. And the second time around, she is now an outstanding dual language educator. So she's going to do the introduction of our students and family.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. I just want to take a minute before I introduce our students to thank their parents, Georgina y Carlos. Gracias por estar aquí, traerlos y acompañarlos. Carlos Hernández, one of our 8th grade dual students, and Justin Martinez. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Thank you, Dr. Aramaki, for the opportunity.
And Carlos will be leading us in the pledge in Spanish.
Okay.
Juro lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y la República que representa una nación bajo Dios indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry we couldn't all chime in. All right. Next, we'd like to hear from the students, whatever they would like to tell us.
Go first.
Good afternoon, directors and Dr. Aramaki. Thank you for this opportunity to share about Highland. I want to talk about Avid, the first thing. Avid 1, something that really helped me staying organized. This helped me by having my binder clean and upcoming events on my planner. Also, Avid has really helped me to be braver and have more confidence in myself. For example, sharing about my feelings and something good and bad that's happened this weekend. Avid has made a big impact in my life ever since I joined it. Another thing I want to talk about is the Jubilee Reach programs. Jubilee has also made a big impact in my life, just like playing soccer, since that's one of the sports. Playing soccer is like one of my favorite things. So playing soccer after school, having practices, having games on Wednesdays is just like really fun and builds a big bond with me and my friends. Also playing like amazing schools, just like Telecom, Chinook, Tai, Oro, is also really fun to do. That's why Jubilee has also really made a big impact in my life. Experiences like this help me prepare for high school and my future. Thank you for your time. Gracias por su tiempo.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, directors and Dr. Aramaki. Thank you for this opportunity to share about Highland. My name is Justin Martinez, and I am currently an 8th grade student at Highland. I am part of the dual program and also take AVID classes. Some of the things I'm most passionate about are soccer, my family, and my community. As I complete my last year at Highland, I realize how prepared I feel for the next step in my life, high school. I want to acknowledge that this would not be possible without the support of my premier athletes mentors, my teachers, my classmates, and everyone who makes Highland a great school. I consider myself as a leader in my school and in my community, and I am proud to represent Highland at this event as a student who values both this institution and the dual program. I have been in this country for 6 years, and I am proud to represent the many immigrant students who navigate the education system here. I thank God and my family for opening doors for me and teaching me resilience above all. It is an honor to be able to contribute to my community. Okay. Mi nombre es Justin Martínez y actualmente curso el 8º grado en Highland. Soy estudiante del programa dual y también tomo clases de AVID. Algunas de las cosas que me apasionan son el fútbol, mi familia y mi comunidad. Al cursar mi último año en Highland, me doy cuenta de lo preparado que me siento para el siguiente paso en mi vida, la preparatoria. Quiero reconocer que esto no sería posible sin el apoyo de mis mentores de Renner Athletes, mis maestros, mis compañeros y todas las personas que hacen de Highland la mejor escuela. Me considero un líder en mi escuela y en mi comunidad, y me llena de orgullo poder representar a Highland en esta reunión. Como estudiante orgulloso de esta institución y del programa dual, llevo 6 años en este país y me enorgullece representar a la cantidad de estudiantes inmigrantes que navegan al sistema educativo en Estados Unidos. Le agradezco a Dios y a mi familia por abrirme las puertas y enseñarme resiliencia ante todo, y me honra poder contribuir a mi gente. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great hearing a little bit about Highland, and I also like listening to Spanish because if I focus very carefully, I can pick out a word or two here and there. So thank you. All right. Now we're going to go on to acknowledgements. All right. So this month we have Dyslexia Awareness Month, Filipino American History Month, National Principals Month, Learning Disabilities Awareness Month. From the 20th to the 24th, we have National School Bus Safety Week. We have on the 20th, Diwali. I guess it's also called Deepavali. I know it is Diwali. Then on the 22nd, we have National Unity Day. On the 22nd, we also have Birth of the Bab. And on the 23rd, we have Birth of Baha'u'llah. Then on the 29th, we have the Chongyang Seniors Festival. And on the 31st, we have Halloween. So that's a lot coming up. Okay, next we're going to go for approval of the agenda. I'll need a motion from somebody to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
And
Second.
Second, all right. Would anybody like to discuss the agenda? All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda then, please say aye.
Aye.
And since there's no room for nay, because everybody ayed, I think, it is approved. Okay. Next, we're going to do the same thing with the consent agenda. So I'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there anything anybody would like to discuss about the consent agenda? Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Aye, sorry.
Everyone said aye, so the consent agenda is approved. So now we are going to go on to the superintendent update.
Great, thank you so much. Today's a great day. Highland really represented. I'm just so thrilled. Our student speakers are absolutely incredible, and they not only showcase how great the school is, how great Highland is, but also just what incredible human beings they are. And so that was incredible. And then I think for people who are online, you probably can't see, but the boardroom is filled with amazing educators. We've got so many people from our preschool program here, and I'm just thrilled to see you all. So welcome, and it's great to see you and have you. And I can't wait to talk more about you in this meeting. So just on this slide real quick, as we celebrate this month, those are pictures from the Bellevue Botanical Garden. So if you haven't seen the dahlias there, it is worth just going up there. So I had to take a meta moment, and I got to see all those beautiful flowers. So let me click here. I'm going to go through a few things real quickly, and then at the end of my superintendent comments, we're going to do to give out some awards to people. And so I really want to get to that as quickly as possible. Last week, I had the opportunity to go to Microsoft. They're launching this new initiative to close the opportunity gap around access to artificial intelligence in Washington State. That part of the story is important, but really the most exciting part was Trevor Noah was there. And so all the pictures, as I now look at it, are all about Trevor Noah and myself. So, but I got a chance to meet him. His book, Born a Crime, is required reading 10th grade. And it is incredible, and he is incredible, and he has a foundation that supports kids in South Africa. Anyway, so just want to say that happened. It was very awesome. We had a visit to Tyee Middle School, so Dr. Melissa Macias and I and some others were there. It's our first in-person Korean language program at the middle school level, and so we celebrated that. The Korean consulate was there to present a check for an investment in the program, which we're so thankful for. And when we went to visit the class, they're listening to the K-pop, and I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh, so awesome. But I just want to shout out this kid in the picture on the top left, Jared. I was sitting in the office, and he communicates through tablet. So he doesn't speak a lot verbally out loud, but he was next to me. He came up and showed me his tablet and said, "I'm a big fan of you, Soup." And so I was like, "Oh, thanks." And then he verbally said, "Can we take a selfie?" I said, "Sure." So we took a selfie. But then what was extraordinary was while we were doing this Korean visit thing, the announcements came on, and he was one of the speakers for the daily announcements. And he uses like his tablet AI and all of that stuff to type what he wants to say, and then it says it for him. But he's telling jokes, giving updates. And I'm just like, the kid is incredible. He's got all this agency. But what we're doing in this district around special education is incredible. I mean, the inclusion of kids in the community. And I just want to shout out Tyee because they've created this environment. He is an ASB officer that got elected by his colleagues. And it just shows the power of building this beloved community. And so I was so proud. This kid is incredible. I left a voice message for his dad just to say, I know you know this, but your kid is incredible. But we're doing such cool stuff, whether it's the language program at Tyee or our inclusive practices. So kudos to the system for that. I'm leading a subgroup on funding for the state. And so OSPI is doing this big thing. Part of lifting the levy lid, which really benefited us, was starting a statewide task force. And so I just wanted the community to know, as we're going through all these financial issues, that I'm one of the leaders of one of the subgroups looking at student weighting factors. So how do we give more money to kids who need more support in order to succeed? And so that work is ongoing, but it's important for the community to know that a bunch of us are advocating for more resources for kids across the state of Washington. With that, today, after the board meeting, we have a study session. We're going to take the board through some information about enrollment and about the budget. And so I want to give you, the community, kind of these are the headlines for what we're going to present after the board meeting. And for the most part, if it's in green, it means it's good news, okay? So here's the thing about enrollment. The first thing is birth rates and enrollment are down across the state of Washington. So I have all these charts. I don't have time to show it. but enrollment is going down everywhere in King County, but all across the state of Washington. But even in that context, enrollment is up in the Bellevue School District. We are up from last year by approximately 200 students, which is, we are one of the only districts in this whole region that actually has more kids this year than we had last year. Kindergarten enrollment is up, and we are back to our 2020, 2021 levels. So we were, in 2020, we were at about 1,200 kindergarten kids, and then we really dropped during COVID and after COVID. But this year we are back to 1,200 kids, about the exact same number. And that is important because the stronger kindergarten is, the stronger we are all the way through the system. Enrollment is above our budgeted projection by about 95 students. That is important because we budget a certain amount of money, a certain amount of kids for the school year, and then everything, we just cross our fingers that we hit our budgeted amount because the funding that comes from the state is based on the number of kids, but we are up above by about 95 students, which is an anomaly in this region of the state. Resident enrollment, so kids who live in the school district, resident enrollment is increasing at the elementary level, which is an amazing thing. We have some slight declines at the middle and high school, but that's just because we have these small cohorts that are going through. However, at elementary, the in-district kids numbers are going up, which is a good sign. Non-resident enrollment, so kids that live outside the district who come to school into the Bellevue School District, has increased by about 300 kids from last year, bringing in a total of about $14.5 million in revenue, while costing property owners only about 3 cents per $1,000 assessed value. So this might just go way over everyone's head, but bottom line is, the amount of kids that we get from out of district brings in about $14.5 million. It costs, if your home is worth $1 million, the cost to you to fund those kids is only $30. So it's a very small price to pay to bring in $14.5 million into our district with all of the kids from out of district. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the last point is this: Bellevue continues to be a draw for families for its world-class education with cutting-edge language programs, which I talked about earlier with the Korean program, our CTE programs, advanced placement, IB courses, our amazing activities, athletics, electives, our high-quality special education and advanced learning services, innovative services like digital discovery and family partnership that we started this year. We have the most high-caliber staff, many of which are sitting here in this room representing preschool, and we have a supportive, beloved community. And so we were ranked #1 by Niche, the #1 district in the state. And I feel like we deserve it. We are working so hard. We are doing amazing things for kids, and we are so proud. And families are coming, whether they're living in the district, moving in, choosing us over private school, or coming in from out of the state. So related to enrollment, tonight we're going to share with the board some updates on the budget. And these are things I just want you to know. So to set the context, a year ago, we experienced our Houston, we have a problem moment with our ending fund balance coming in about $10 million less than what we expected. And then in this past July, we were projecting to have about a negative $4.5 million fund balance at the end of the 24-25 school year based on what we projected expenditures, what we were projecting with revenue. As we're closing out the books, which is about 2 weeks away, our fund balance will likely come in around negative $700,000. So that is a huge difference from negative $4.9 million, putting us about a year and a half ahead of schedule in meeting our binding conditions. And so the reason for that is revenue is coming in about $4 million higher than expected, mainly due to the safety net increase this year and some conservative budgeting that we did. Expenditures are coming in as we projected back in July, which is really good because we were trying to eliminate surprise expenditures. We're about $6 million less in expenditures than we projected back in March, which is really good. And we're only about $1 million off from what we projected back in August of 2024. And related to that, special education staffing stayed within budget this year for the first time in a very long time. And so kudos to our special education team for doing that. That made a huge difference. This is a result of teamwork and disciplined spending across the entire system. And I'll just mention, Everybody managed less MSOCs, less supply money. We worked really closely with BEA to look at ways that we could be more efficient, that we could work with staff on spending. It took everybody across the system to stop spending money once we knew that we were having a problem, and it has really paid off for us. So then my last bullet says we should celebrate the accelerated progress that we've made, and we have to stay focused on our goal of restoring our fund balance and keeping expenditures within revenue over the next couple of years. The more we can do this now for the next 2 years, the better we're going to be back to normal sooner than later. So anyways, a kudos to the system. This is really, really great news to see a negative fund balance that is 6 digits and not 7. So we should be really thrilled about that, and let's keep on going. So related to that, a couple years ago, we were talking about middle school consolidations, and John Harrison, who's the chief of staff, he found something that said that we were going to update we were going to do a kind of a official review of the decision next fall of 2026. But we said that we would give the community an update on what we were thinking October 2025. So we were like, that's right about now. So what I wanted to let the community know is that because of all of the hard work around creating all these programs, the increasing enrollment at elementary school, we are no longer considering closing or consolidating a middle school. So we've taken that off the table, which should be very exciting and welcome news, because I do know that there are some middle school folks who are wondering or worried that we're going to close a middle school, but I just want the community to know that if things keep going the way they're going with elementary school, we're going to be just fine at middle school and at high school. So that's a good news story. I will write all of this up and send it out to the community in the next newsletter that comes out from me. Okay, all that to say, with that, the school board has been asking for a long time for us to find ways to acknowledge the amazing staff that we have in the school district. And so we're launching these Teach Awards, which the genesis of it is kind of from that whole comparison with Apollo 13. But we basically are elevating some of these values that have really kind of shown our character over the past year, which is the importance of teamwork, the importance of focusing on each and every student, looking for accelerating forces. How do we find ways to accelerate towards our mission? We are looking for people who are committed to our mission of affirming and inspiring each and every student to learn and thrive as creators of the future world, and this idea of human ingenuity, just people showing just incredible kind of human ingenuity, innovation towards our goals. So this is kind of our launch of that. It is a very special thing, and the board is going to help me announce them. So what we're going to do is the board each has, sorry, of course, as I'm talking about this, there's a really big fly who is just kind of flying around me. Yeah. But I'm not going to let that distract me. So the board's going to help me present. So we're going to present to, we have 5 individuals really, and then the preschool, which they're going to do a presentation later. So we're going to kind of keep that one a little bit separate. But what we'll do is we have an order, so there's a number on your thing. We'll do it in order, and as they read it, it would be great for the person to come up front, and then Stella, our student helper, is going to give out the award to them. And then we're going to take a picture once all of the individuals are up. Okay, does that make sense? All right. I know, it's a really big fly. And he's like almost dead, so.
Yeah, he came over and collapsed here.
Okay. All right, so Director Aras, you want to kick us off?
All right. I have the privilege to announce the first one and share a little bit. But I believe Teresa's not.
Yeah, Teresa's not feeling well today, so she can't make it. I'm pretty sure she's just shy, but that's okay.
Okay. The first one here is my privilege to present the very first Teach Award for Human Ingenuity and Being an Accelerating Force to Teresa Nguyen. As an accountant in our business service department, Teresa is a staff member who was reading through the bills during the 2025 legislative session and discovered a bill that would eventually allow districts in binding conditions, which now includes Bellevue, to sell property to accelerate the restoration of our fund balance and to take our interfund loan in the meantime without having to pay interest. I just have to pause and say, we are so darn lucky. Teresa is a Bellevue School District staff member who has demonstrated how we can leverage the power of innovative strategies and human ingenuity that propelled us toward our goal of fiscal stability. Although people in schools may not have heard of Teresa, who works quietly in the finance department, her potentially 30 million impact will absolutely be felt by all 19,500 students and the staff who support them. Congratulations, Teresa. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit here because I was told I get to, because as a person who, as a board legislator working on this, and there has been many sleepless nights of how in the world are we going to dig our district out of the hole at the quickest and the fastest time. And when Dr. Aramaki mentioned about this bill, and as a bypassing, as we were preparing for our listening session, I have to say there's this bill, and it's like, oh, we could always amend bills. I have to say, to hear and other people in our district thinking creatively to trying to find solutions, it's awesome. It is really a great aspect of our amazing brain power in our community and desire to make our space continuously running smoothly. Thank you, Teresa.
It is my pleasure to present the Teach Award for each and every student to Freedom Johnson. As the coordinator of the Employee Specialist for BIPOC Educators during the 2024-25 school year, she stepped up in a big way to lead the district's equity planning and visioning. Not only has she helped chart a vision with a plan to create more equitable learning and working conditions in our district, as well as how we can live into our board policy on equity and accountability, Freedom has also been the lead facilitator for district-wide microaggression trainings, which have been well received across schools and district departments. She's even going to lead this training for the board, yay, at an upcoming board retreat. One aspect of the Teach Award is about serving each and every student, or what we refer to as creating Katherine Johnson conditions in the BSD. Freedom is doing just that, creating Katherine Johnson conditions for students and staff so that we can truly become a beloved community for everyone. Congratulations, Freedom.
Yeah, stay there. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. I'm excited to present the Teach Award for Teamwork to Sarah Casey, a program coordinator in special education, and Michelle Cow, a budget analyst in business services, for their cross-department work to increase our safety net collection for special education. As we've been working to stabilize our finances over the past few years, and especially this past year, Sarah and Michelle started working together starting in November or December with the task of recouping more special education costs through the safety net. Together, they looked through every IEP that the district has, collaborated with teachers and special education directors, attended every OSPI support session, and made sure every dollar that could be reimbursed was reimbursed. The result of their partnership was an increase in the safety net reimbursements by $6 million over the year before to a total of $10.5 million in reimbursements this past year. This is a big reason for reducing the deficit in our ending fund balance from a negative $4.9 million that was our projection to an actual ending fund balance of negative $700,000 is because of the work of Sarah and Michelle. Lastly, a fun fact. Michelle is a graduate of the Bellevue School District, and her father just recently retired after almost 30 years most recently as the head custodian at Eastgate Elementary. Congratulations to both Sarah and Michelle, and thank you.
Okay.
They were hiding.
So now it's me? Okay. So it's my pleasure to present the BSD Teacher Award for Human-Centered Service to Karen Chubb. Also a Bellevue School District graduate, Karen is the attendance specialist at Sammamish High School. A graduating senior that Dr. Aramaki ran into recently recognized Karen as one of the most important, supportive, and caring adults at Sammamish. While giving out tardy slips every morning, Karen gets to know students' names, their stories, and their individual situations. Karen exemplifies the type of human-centered support, service, and care that students, families, and staff were talking about wanting during our most recent strategic planning process. The way students talk about Karen is how we want students to talk about all the adults in the district. For many students at Sammamish, Karen is the first adult they see in the morning. They report feeling genuinely cared for by Karen and that she is always happy to see them, no matter how late they are. Karen was nominated by Julian Wen, a recent graduate of Sammamish High School, Karen's alma mater. Thanks in part to her support, he is now a freshman at Central Washington University. Congratulations and thank you, Karen. And this is where I just want to interject. I know how important an attendance specialist is. You know, the kid comes running in late, probably because of something his mom did, and has to talk to you, and it sets the tone for the whole day, whether that's going to be a good day or a bad day. And it also sets a tone for the mom, who may or may not have dropped him off late. So thank you.
All right, and then I'm going to read the award for preschool, but please do not get up because there's too many of you. So we're going to do the preschool picture later. We're going to do, after I read the preschool one, then what we'll do is we'll do a picture with you, and then we'll do a preschool picture after the presentation later, okay? The final Teach Award for their commitment to mission is going to the entire Bellevue School District preschool staff, teachers, assistants, central office staff. The first week of kindergarten, as I walked around classes, I was so struck by how kindergarten teachers around the district were raving about the students who were coming from BSD preschools, more so than in previous years. Teachers would say, "I'm so excited, I have so many BSD preschool kids this year." We know preschool is one of the most important gap-closing strategies in education, but it was particularly noticeable not only how kindergarten teachers were talking with hope about students from BSD preschool, but also by how the students were noticeably showing success the first week of school. My interactions with appreciative kindergarten teachers wasn't by chance. Our BSD preschool staff have been engaging over the past years in deep curriculum and instruction work around early learning, including early literacy development, social emotional development, and our district's aspiration of multilingualism for all. Later in the agenda tonight, I've asked the BSD preschool team to present more about their work, but for now, congratulations and job well done. Okay, so picture with the four of you and the boards.
In modern times, we have to take a photo of everything in case it didn't happen, All right. So, or we don't believe it happened. Anyway, now we're on to public comment. And let me just say, the board values public input and allocates 20 minutes per meeting for public comments, with each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Comments must be civil and within legal and district policy boundaries. The meeting chair, which is me, may end comments that exceed time limits or violate standards of civility. The board expects the same level of civility that the board imposes on itself. Uncivil comments include those that are libelous, obscene, violate privacy, incite unlawful acts, or disrupt the meeting. The board reserves the right to maintain order, but differentiates between uncivil remarks and critical yet respectful commentary. Mr. Harrison, would you please introduce our public commenters? Oh, wow.
I would be happy to. There is the list in front of us. We will take each public commenter in the order that your name appears on the screen. Please be cognizant of your time. That box in the top left-hand corner counts down from 2 minutes. And as the speaker before you was starting to wind down, if you could make your way to the front table, that would be great. And the most important piece is to remember to state your name for the record. So we've got 8 speakers, I believe, 7 in person and 1 online. So we'll start with Mr. Alex Zimmerman.
My name is Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak something about what is, I think, absolutely critical here. For last 30 years, under them Nazi fascist junta, you know what this means? We 2 generations of us children make us zombie and idiot. Is this situation supposed to be changed? Because we come right now to a situation what is America supposed to become back. That's exactly what is we don't have, and I don't see her for almost 40 years. Yeah, 30, absolutely. So Bellevue Council and Mayor Robinson, this is a pure criminal. I give you right now an example, what is you understand why it's going on, why we have a fascism for 30 years. 2 council, Bellevue Council have 2 citizenship, and they cannot do this because it's a crime. And Mayor Robinson supports this, so she's a criminal too. Guys, you need to understand, problem what is we have with fascism in King County, you know what this means. So right now, #1 fascist county in America, 1 from 500. It's not my opinion. It's a Trump administration opinion. Yeah, situation very simple. You cannot broken law because you want control everybody. Junta control everybody. It's America. Supposed to be connection and talking to everybody. Freedom of speech supposed to be everywhere. They don't doing this. So this not surprise me right now. So 2 council right now in chamber, you know what this mean, in Bellevue chamber right now have 2 citizenships. This against law. No one country in this planet can accept somebody who work for government who have a 2 citizenship. This is by definition crime. Everywhere. It's not only in Bellevue. But Bellevue doing this because they can control everybody. They are a fascist, a junta, a bandita. This need be stopped. Viva Trump, viva New American Revolution. Stand up, slave and happy cow. Guys, we need doing this right now. We have a law, have constitution for 200 years ago. 250 years. We right now disappear.
Comments over.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent, and members of our community. I am Reagan Lorden, Vice President of the Bellevue Education Association, and I am a proud unionist who gets to see up close the essential role and power of collective work on improving the learning and education of our students. The BEA represents over 1,400 highly skilled professionals who collectively share a commitment to and passion for teaching and learning. BEA represents classroom teachers, counselors, nurses, therapists, and specialists, and more. 97% of our district's educators are voluntary union members. This is a powerful testament to our shared dedication to educational excellence. Together, we work to empower and give voice to educators who have the passion, expertise, training, and knowledge to build rich and inclusive learning communities that ensure that every child receives a comprehensive education and prepares them for their futures and teaches them the beauty of knowledge. Together, our educators speak out and work to make sure the professional conditions necessary for this are in place. When we work for better working conditions, we are creating better learning conditions for every student in Bellevue schools. Over the last 60 years, BEA has continually been a voice for changes that have benefited every educator and student in our community, including increased salary for our early educators, paid trainings, and support for student needs. Our collective voice protects the professional integrity of our educators, works to raise their voices, and ensure that their professional judgment is able to make a difference in the lives and educational journey of every Bellevue student. Thank you for recognizing the vital and deeply meaningful contributions of 1,400 united professionals who make our schools extraordinary every day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Sophia Twahir, and I'm a senior representing BSU at Bellevue High School. I'm here because what's written in Policy 3241, the district's student discipline and corrective action policy, will shape how students experience safety, equity, and accountability in Bellevue schools. These policies aren't abstract. They decide whether students feel protected, believed, and valued. I appreciate the effort to revise the policy, especially around culture, training, and student engagement. But without real accountability, these revisions risk becoming performative. As a student who has been in BSD for nearly 10 years, I've seen how vague rules like Policy 3241 play out. Racial slurs dismissed as misunderstandings, fights punished differently depending on who's involved, and bias deciding who gets believed. Training can't fix that alone. Policy must define racial harassment clearly, outline consistent responses, and require documentation of all incidents. Students also deserve real seats at the table. We need formal student representations, especially from Black and Brown students on the Discipline Appeal Council, the Equity Accountability Team, and in policy audits. Student voice shouldn't be optional. It should be built in. Restorative justice must be clearly defined in policy. Harmed students should have the right to opt in and receive guaranteed support, counselors, affinity spaces, and follow-up care. Restorative approaches can't replace accountability or be used to silence harm. And finally, adults must be held accountable too. Staff who ignore or mishandle racial incidents should face documented consequences just as students do when we break rules. That's how you turn equity from a statement into a standard. Thank you for your time and for listening to students living this every day.
Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed directors and Dr. Aramaki. My name is Melissa Taylor, and I've had the privilege and pleasure of teaching the students you heard from earlier in their dual language science class for the last 2 years. Carlos and Justin are wonderful examples of what is possible in our Spanish dual language program, and I am extremely proud of them. However, I'd like to speak to you about the students you'll never hear from at a board meeting, at a fundraiser, or at an athletics banquet. I'm speaking about a student I once had who showed up exhausted every day to my class because he worked an overnight job to support his family after his mother was deported. I'm speaking about a student I once had who never set foot in school until the day I met him. I'm speaking about a student I once had who never touched a computer until our tech specialist handed her one. These students are also enrolled in our Spanish dual language program. Their needs go far beyond what the average person thinks of when they imagine a middle school classroom, and yet dual language class size targets are identical to their monolingual counterparts, which places an incredible demand on the educators charged with serving them. This year, my 8th grade classes started out with nearly 40 students each. Students like Carlos and Justin, as well as those I just spoke about, Thanks to my administrators and building leadership team, the use of our school's title funds placed me on an overage and allowed me to open a section that reduced our average 8th grade class size to 26, a much more reasonable load and more in line with our contract. Still, I'm not able to meet the spectrum of needs that presents itself in my room on a daily basis. Each of these kids has unique stories, skills, and goals for their futures. As we rebuild and recover from our budget crisis, I want you to keep our most vulnerable students in mind and prioritize class size targets of 20 students in our secondary dual language classes. This is a lofty and expensive goal, but it's also one of the simplest, most effective evidence-based strategies for improving attendance and engagement in low-income and minority students. Justin and Carlos have shown you what's possible in our program. Now let's make that reality for every student we serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, directors, superintendent, and community members. My name is Joel Ingraham, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Bellevue Quality Schools, a volunteer-run 501c4 organization dedicated to education, advocacy around school funding in the Bellevue School District. I'm here to urge the board to adopt the 2 school levy renewal resolutions, the renewal of the Educational Programs and Operations Levy, and the renewal of the Capital and Technology Levy. These are renewals, not new taxes, but they are absolutely essential. Without their renewal, Bellevue Schools will lose the local dollars that are critical to the district's budget and to its ability to serve each and every student with high-quality, future-ready education. Bellevue Public Schools are a cornerstone of the community and are consistently the highest-ranked schools in Washington State. They strengthen our neighborhoods, attract families, and prepare the next generation of innovators, leaders, and citizens. Bellevue Quality Schools' mission is simple: to ensure our community understands how school funding works and to advocate for strong, equitable, and sustainable public schools. Once these resolutions are adopted, Bellevue Quality Schools stands ready to support a yes vote on February 10th. We are inviting the entire Bellevue community to join us by volunteering and donating at bellevuequalityschools.org. Together, we can keep Bellevue schools strong for every student, every family, and our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christy Swessinger, and I'm a parent of 2 students in the district. My 8th grader has dyslexia, and I'm here tonight to speak about the importance of recognizing and supporting our students with dyslexia. October is Dyslexia Awareness Month, a time to recognize and support the 1 in 5 students. These are brilliantly creative, insightful students who often think in ways that can change the world. Yet in school, many feel defeated, not because they lack ability, but because every day takes immense effort just to keep up. They work twice as hard to read and write, often hiding their struggles to fit in. The emotional toll is real, constant self-doubt and exhaustion for students who are doing their very best. Many are also twice exceptional, 2E, gifted in some areas and struggling in others, which can make their challenges harder to see. But when we identify and support dyslexic students early, using UDL and evidence-based literacy interventions, they begin to view dyslexia not as a weakness, but as a strength that often brings innovation, empathy, and resilience. A Dyslexia Lighthouse program would do just this. Having educators with a deep understanding of dyslexia would empower these students daily. As a district that values belonging and academic excellence, this is a month and a chance to ask, are we identifying students early enough? Are we supporting both their strengths and challenges? And are we equipping all teachers with the tools and in-depth training needed to support every learner? If we truly want to move the needle on literacy and inclusion, professional development needs to be a district-wide priority, not an opt-in opportunity. When we do that, we help every student, including those with dyslexia, feel seen, capable, and ready to change the world. Thank you for your ongoing commitment to helping all students thrive.
Thank you.
Our final speaker tonight is online. Magana, if you are able to, would you raise your hand And Jess, when you've found her, you're on screen. Whenever you're ready, feel free to go ahead.
She needs to unmute herself, I believe.
Magana, you should be able to unmute your mic now. Magana, you may want to leave and rejoin and see if you can unmute your mic then. It's looking like she hasn't come back yet. Oh, there she is. All right, let me go ahead and allow your mic again, Magana. 1 second.
There we go.
Oh, we can see you. And then you need to just unmute your mic. It should be the little mic icon at the top. Looks like you're still muted. I'm sorry, we still can't hear you.
I'm so sorry about this technical problem. What are the odds of getting this fixed in the next minute?
Maybe what we could do is we can move on, and
Yeah.
then while in the background, you could try to work on it, because I think she has to find the place. Otherwise, she can submit it in writing to the board. Okay.
I'm sorry for that. But to keep on schedule, I think we have to go on, and hopefully the tech problem will clear up and we can come back. Because we're going now into the preschool program update.
We're going to start with the first slide. That's the last slide. Yeah. Perfect. There we go. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, good evening, directors and Dr. Aramaki. Thank you for allowing us to share this evening. Preschool is where dreams take root, where play sparks learning, and curiosity fuels creativity. For us, this isn't just a beautiful idea. It's what happens every day in our preschool classrooms. It's where strong starts begin and where we lay the foundation for lifelong learning. Tonight, we'll share a few highlights from how our preschool program is delivering on this promise through expanded access, inclusive practices, and the incredible expertise of our team. Let's see. She said it has good. Thanks. BSD Preschool reflects the languages, cultures, and neighborhoods of Bellevue. We serve children across 14 of our 16 elementary schools, and our classrooms are inclusive by design, where children of all abilities learn together. We also provide linguistically and culturally responsive curriculum and family partnership, so families see themselves in our schools from the start. Because access is targeted, preschool enrolls a higher share of students qualifying for free and reduced price lunch and a higher share of students with IEPs than our K-5. That's a strength. It means early supports in language, social emotional learning, and services reach students who benefit most earlier. Next. Before we share a few highlights about our preschool program, I want to pause and celebrate what truly makes BSD Preschool exceptional, and that is our staff, many of who are here today. I feel incredibly blessed to work alongside this team and to support their passion in creating strong starts for every child. Their commitment, along with every preschool staff member, is what turns vision into reality. These celebrations reflect not just progress, but the passion and expertise that make our preschool program thrive. I'm going to ask each team to introduce themselves and share their role before highlighting the incredible work they are leading.
Hi, I'm Emily Shriver. I'm an early learning curriculum developer, and I get to talk to you all about our language program in Bellevue Preschool. Last year, we started this program at just a few of our sites, and this year we have been able to expand to all of our preschool sites across the district. This program is led by our own preschool teachers, mostly our assistant preschool teachers, and this program features weekly mini lessons introducing students to the teacher's native languages and cultures. Right now, across the district, we have 9 languages, including American Sign Language, that are currently being taught. This initiative not only builds leadership opportunities for our staff, but also ensures equitable access to cultural and language exposure for all of our students, regardless of the program they're in or the funding they receive. The program provides both windows into diverse cultures and mirrors that reflect students' own identities, which foster a sense of belonging and global awareness. Our goal with this program is to spark interest in continued language learning and cultivate appreciation for cultural diversity from an early age. And the passion that we have seen from our assistant teachers and our teachers who teach this program is just amazing. I urge any of you to come and see a language lesson being taught in one of our preschool classrooms. And this is one of our language teachers at Ardmore.
Okay, my name is Dina Mustafa. I'm teaching Arabic in Ardmore Elementary School. So I worked in different daycare and centers, and they provide different many language. Do you know that in early child centers they have Spanish, they have Russian, they have Chinese, to provide the family and kids different language. And Bellevue School District, we start that from last year to provide Arabic in Ardmore Elementary School. Not just Arabic, Arabic and Spanish and also Chinese. And then I want to just tell you guys, do you know that we are first preschool in all Washington? And we are the only district that provide Arabic and public, not just only Arabic. We provide different language now. We have to proud ourselves. I'm talking now not just like a teacher, I'm talking also like mom, because I was looking at service for my kids. And we meet many family, and they always looking for that. Now we have this service. They can come now to put child with us. We are talking about the culture in Arabic. We make that like fun. And also we make henna, we make a fashion show. We will make party about the culture, and they will let everyone to wear own clothes from a home country. Last thing, if you ask ChatGPT, who is first school district provide Arabic, or where can I put my son to school? They will give it you Ardmore and Bellevue School District. It's only one provide Arabic. Thank you, everyone.
I'm Heidi Forrester. I am one of the preschool teachers. I am at Clyde Hill Elementary, and I'm also a special education certified teacher. I've been with the district almost 10 years now. I started as a part-time GSA, and I also work during recess and lunchroom. I feel like I've seen it all. I was later promoted to a paraprofessional in the Pacific program, and I worked closely with students facing very challenging behaviors. When the pandemic hit, I knew I wanted to continue my work with children and deepen my impact. So I earned my master's in special education. After receiving my teaching certificate, I was fortunate to be offered a position in preschool, and I can truly say I have found my passion. I believe early learning lays the foundation for everything that follows. Preschool teachers are often a child's first experience with a caregiver outside of the home. We don't just teach letters and numbers. We help create a sense of safety, belonging, and a love of learning that can carry a child throughout their educational journey. This year, I'm especially proud of our transition to full-day inclusive preschool. It's a change that reflects our belief that every child deserves the same opportunities, no matter their background, funding source, or support needs. Full-day inclusion strengthens school readiness by removing barriers. When every child can access the full curriculum, participate in group learning, and benefit from consistent routines, we're setting them up for a confident and successful transition to kindergarten. Longer days for children means more time to build relationships. Through shared experiences like meals, recess, and structured play, students learn critical social emotional skills, how to cooperate, express themselves, and care for others in an inclusive setting. These interactions become even more powerful as children learn alongside peers with diverse abilities and experiences. Finally, this program strengthens our community by supporting families. A full-day option provides working parents with a reliable, high-quality educational setting for their children. It gives families peace of mind knowing their child is in a nurturing, learning, and rich environment. In doing so, we reinforce preschool as not just childcare, but as an essential part of the educational system. I've seen firsthand how this expansion is already making a difference. Full-day inclusion isn't just about more hours, it's about more opportunity for learning, for growth, and for the connections. Thank you so much.
One more slide, please. Next, we are going to be highlighting our professional learning model that we have in preschool that I'm so excited to share with you. I think our model is truly unique for a few reasons, and I'm going to share those reasons with you. One is that through our professional learning, we embed coaching each and every day for our teachers in our program. We do that through classroom support of our coaches, such as myself. Sorry, I didn't start with my name, Megan James, early learning developer and elementary developer as well. So people in roles like myself will go in and do coaching on the spot for teachers. We also focus on teacher collaboration during our professional development. A few other ways that it's unique is that our teachers get training in our professional developments that they can implement the next day. So they always have some kind of takeaway that they can take and really implement the next day with their students. We also provide coaching to our teachers that's specific to each teacher's unique need and the needs in their classroom. We make sure that we're aligning all of our professional developments to our initiatives in the district, such as literacy. This year, a big thing we're working on is implementing our new Finch online interactive platform that helps guide teachers' instruction with students in the classroom. To talk a little bit more about the impact of our professional learning in preschool, I'd like to introduce Luki Bowley, and she is one of our preschool teachers at Stevenson.
Good evening. My name is Lucrecia Bowley, and I have been working for the Bellevue School District for 26 years. And in October 24 will be 20 years with early learning. I'd like to share with you my experience in the training that I have received in professional learning and coaching support. And it has been a big part of my growth as a teacher. Every time I attend training or work with a coach, I leave feeling more prepared and empowered to support my students. These opportunities give me new knowledge, techniques, and applicable ideas for supporting children's learning, social, and emotional growth. GLAD strategies is one of my favorites, have given me a wonderful tool for students to be engaged and participate. I see their enthusiasm when we do, for example, like picture dictionary. Students learn not only how many letters the word has, but their lower or uppercase, the sound and the meaning of the word, and they also see drawings come alive when describing an example of the person or the item that represents that word. We find a hand signal for the word we learned. We use games, songs, and poems. We read the stories and have the students retell the sequence of the story by placing pictures of the book and telling what is happening. Circle time discussions are a lot of fun. All the students love to participate. And we also give them a reinforced or a printed picture of the image or word and encourage them to talk with family about what they're learning in class. I've learned strategies that help me include every child, no matter the background or abilities, and that brings me a lot of joy. Professional learning invigorates my passion for teaching. And what I like most about coaching is a partnership. Through the different ways that we as a preschool team connect, we talk, we reflect, and find ways to make learning more inclusive and joyful for every child. It's a space when I can ask questions, I try new ideas, and celebrate what's going well. I always walk away with something I can use right away in the classroom, whether it's a new teaching strategy or a simpler way to connect with families. Overall, these experiences bring me a real sense of joy and motivation. They remind me that as teachers, we're always learning too, growing, improving, and creating classrooms where every child feels seen, supported, valued, and ready to learn. Thank you.
And before we conclude, I would like to highlight our amazing preschool educators. Without them, none of this would be possible. As a past kindergarten teacher myself, I know that the kids are what brought us all to education, but really our colleagues are what keep us here. As you'll see in this photo, this was from one of our professional developments with our teachers, an optional professional development. And I think this speaks volumes of these educators wanted to come and wanted to show up not only for their students, but for each other. I want to go back to Dr. Aramaki's Apollo 13 reference. Our job as a leadership team is to elevate our preschool educators. And I hope that they're shining bright tonight. Thank you.
Because of the Apollo 13 theme, so we have little things for you with a little like space pin. Some of them are a little strange, like there's cats in space and stuff like that. So it kind of veers from the theme a little bit, but super preschool, very, very cute. Yeah, very cute. So I say board, maybe the board, we could stand on the lower, and then the preschool staff could just come up around us. And then maybe a few of you could, whoever's not in the picture, take a picture for us, and hopefully one of them is going to look great. Okay? All right, thanks.
We'll get the. Okay.
We're going to have a few comments from the board on the preschool program, if you wanted to stay. All right. There will be a few comments from the board about the preschool program now. Okay. Which board member would like to go first? Well, it's just unfortunate.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for everyone who showed up today for the award, as well as presenting and supporting as they presented information around preschool. I do appreciate all the hard work for our early learners. It is, research has proven over and over how important preschool is, and as far as their trajectory into their future. So thank you. I get to focus on you. And I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again. I do appreciate all the hard work in growing a program and really aligning it with our K-12, our kindergarten through upwards, and as well as bringing the language into the early, keeping their ears open and really being able to be flexible and nimble as they continue to develop. And I appreciate that you're emphasizing ESL as well, because it is a language that is heavily used and needed across the nation, and actually globally. And we need to continue to recognize our students who utilize it, as well as need people to communicate in their own language. That said, I just have a lot of positives. So at this point, I'm just going to pass it to the next person. I'm going to stare at.
Okay, I'm going to go next. I'm glad you didn't leave. I'm glad you didn't leave because I wanted to say a couple of things. One is I really hope that we can expand over the years the preschool program. I understand right now we're cobbling together a bunch of different funding sources because it's not something that's in our remit, which is K-12, but hopefully we can, because it's so nice for families to be able to have a place where they know their kids being educated, learning what they need to learn, and it's safe, and the people who are running it are professional, and it's just really important for the families in our district. But I also wanted to say something about the Arabic program, because I do wish that would have existed, because my son's grandparents both speak Arabic, and had it been an opportunity, I'm sure we would have liked to have taken that. And I think that I could therefore extrapolate to the meaningfulness of, being able to have Spanish and for the, or Korean or any of the other languages. So I just wanted to express the fact that I really appreciate that we're doing that. So let me pass it to the next board member. Who's next?
So I am a former user of the preschool program. My youngest went through preschool at Anatolian Elementary before joining Miss James' class at Clyde Hill Elementary many years ago. So I appreciate all that the program does. It's great to see how the program continues to grow. I do want to just recognize that the preschool program operates on a cost recovery model, unlike the K through 12, and I think this was being referenced earlier. This program's self-sufficient. It's not costing the community. We are using the buildings that we have, and that's great. I do note that some of the communities around us, like Seattle, are providing more public funding for families to engage in preschool, and I think that that's a model that the city of Bellevue could consider expanding to improve access to preschool. I know we've gotten in the past some reviews of the fees associated with preschool, and it's quite expensive in Bellevue. And this is one of the cheapest options available to families. And additionally, it's a great option if families have older children who are in the school. It provides the kids a chance to feel connected with their siblings. It gives the parents a chance to have one drop off and all that. I also want to recognize that this is one of the levels where I believe the instruction, that there are strict ratios for instructors to students. So We have really strict ratios. I don't remember if it's 12 to 1 or 16 to 1 or what the ratio is. You guys, 10 to 1. Wow. I got it on fingers. So 10 to 1's the ratio. So it provides a really high caliber of connection. And basically every preschool in the state manages right to that ratio. And it's great that the students have access to that level of connection with the parents, with the adults. I do want to recognize, the language programs are great. I think it's one of the things that I've really appreciated as an adult who is fairly monolingual, but I try to have some awareness of other languages, is that developing language skills and hearing languages at early ages is really essential. That there's a lot of studies saying that you kind of lose some of that ability to develop if you don't have that exposure early. So even if it's just a little bit of exposure, it's great to have that multiple language exposure, and I really appreciate that. I do have just one comment question. We've heard a lot about what's going on in the classrooms. I know that this is still an age where kids really want to play and do stuff outside and stuff like that. So when you have a chance, it'd be great to hear more about, how much outdoor education are they getting? What are the opportunities for play look like for this age group? Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the Goldfinch implementation because I think that is fantastic. And I know, Ms. James, you've talked a lot about that. And not only does it provide all that early intervention focus work that you all are doing that this district is also focused on, but it also serves as an early warning system for our parents, right, who are may not know exactly what the kids' needs are, And I know that when my kids were in school, there were some opportunities for me to engage in some external opportunities for them to kind of grow in math and, and kind of help them along when they need that. So I think that this also, having that early sort of identification, notification as a parent can really serve our students well and offer our parents an opportunity to engage in some community resources, external from the district if they so choose. And so I think that you all are doing a great job. Nice work, and congratulations on your award. All right, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So that's it? Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. I always like to double check to make sure there's not anybody missed or any extra comment. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the board business, and this is the fun stuff, right?
President Watson.
We have a change order for.
President Watson, I think if it's okay with you and the board, do we want to give Magana a chance to?
Oh, she's back. Oh, great. Okay, super.
We'll try again.
Magana, we've already allowed your microphone and camera. If you want to go ahead and turn those on. Magana, if you're there, we've allowed your microphone and camera. If you want to go ahead and unmute, you're free to speak. It's like we see your hands raised. You should be able to unmute now using the little mic icon in the top. Magana, you should be able to unmute if you want to go ahead and click unmute in the top right.
It doesn't look like we're any more successful in round two.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Magana, if you can hear us, we're sorry about the technology glitch. You can always provide your comment to Ms. Niemela, and the board will be assured to see it in email.
Okay, sorry for that. We're going to go on now to 6.1, the approval of the change order 290 Newport High School project, and we're going to hear a little bit about what that is.
Good afternoon. I'm seeking approval from the board to approve change order 20 for Newport High School addition and renovation project to Cornerstone General Contractors in the additive amount of $1,136,023.46. The change order is for work required by the city to include a retaining block wall, curbing, guardrail, fencing along Factoria Boulevard to address steep slopes and accommodate right-of-way improvements like wider sidewalks, landscape buffers, and a Metro bus shelter. The Newport High School project is funded from the sale of project-specific bonds approved by voters in 2020. The budget for the project is set at $140 million, and as of this date, we have expended and encumbered just over $131 million. We do not anticipate any additional large-scale change orders other than replacement of the existing tennis courts if the budget allows roughly $2 million. The project remains on schedule with final completion set for the spring of 2026.
Okay, would anybody like to discuss or comment on this? Oh, wait, first, let's have the motion for the approval of the change order, and then we can have the discussion. How about that? Robert's rules. All
I
right.
move to approve change order number 290 for the Newport High School project.
Second.
Okay, now we'll have the discussion. Anybody like to discuss?
I have some.
Okay, Director Block.
So I have one question, but before I get to the question, I just want to recognize my understanding of this project is that this is being driven by the regulatory requirements imposed by the City of Bellevue as part of the right-of-way improvements.
Yeah, every project that we undertake, that any of the properties of any school that face public right-of-way, there are usually improvements that we are required to make.
So this isn't an enhancement that we're trying to make that, by choice. This is something that's being imposed through the regulatory requirements.
Right. It's part of the permitting process. Yes.
So my other question is, so we're at 131 million. We have a target maximum of 140. Do we know what the initial bid was for the Newport High School improvements before adding the change orders on?
Yeah. The bid amount was close to 98 million. Now, the total project budget is beyond that. That includes sales tax, architects, engineering fees, all the other associated fees. So it's about 41% additional for all those costs above what the bid amount is. So the actual construction cost is up probably about, I think, about $6 or $7 million over that 97.
Thank you. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who's next? No? Okay.
Hi, Jack. Thank you for updating us. I do want to follow up on my comment on Monday regarding the ask about creating safer pathways for our students, especially, well, actually more than our students, but just a larger community, given the fact that they've asked us to redo the sidewalk and now this. I think it's fair to ask for them to look at improving the safety, and especially around the crosswalks, and making sure that people are more cautious. Especially, as I was driving here, I realized it's not just Newport and Factoria Interjunction, but it's also Cold Creek and I forgot the street on the west side.
124th. Yeah.
Yes, when it's a very busy street,
Yes.
and people tend to go way faster than speed limit, and I do get concerned with the way it is currently running. That it's there will be greater opportunities for danger for our students. But since we're doing all this construction work, if there's a ways to ask our partners at the city to see if they could look into it and to improve their portion of safety.
Yes, we had planned to work with the transportation department who controls the crosswalks and signalization and timing and things like that to see if there are some improvements we can do for safety as well as some efficiency as far as crossing at all of the crosswalks and things that we've established. We have the wider sidewalk, so we have more capacity there. We need to have capacity to get from one sidewalk across the street to the other ones.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you, Jack.
I just want to comment that I'll second Director Aris's concerns about crosswalk safety, and I'm glad that you're on top of that or trying to push that forward. I have a suspicion that it's going to be nice when it's done with the retaining wall. I know it's steep there if you ever try to go there, so I'm just envisioning once you get it done, maybe we should just all go walk up and down the sidewalk and see how it is. But it's probably going to be pretty nice. The other question is, I know this falls within the budget that we had, and you knew that like there were reasons to do this in kind of pieces, but have we already sold the bonds that we need to sell to cover this? We have the bond capacity for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the money in the bank, or do we have to sell more bonds? And if
No, we have all the bond funding that we have is available to take care of the cost associated with this project.
What I mean is, I know we have capacity to sell more bonds, but the bonds have already been sold and that money's in the bank for this?
No.
Or we have to go sell
No,
more?
we sell it as we need it. We
Okay.
sell it in usually 100 million increments.
Because I'm just thinking about we'll have to absorb a higher interest rate probably. But we got to do this regardless because the city's requiring it. So I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just putting making us aware that I was hoping that maybe you just had some leftover money somewhere.
Well, we have, I mean, we have made savings, and that's how we built Transition, for an example.
Oh, yeah.
By the savings from other projects. So, yeah, we pinch the pennies where we can to be able to move them into the next project. So it's not like we finish up, now we're completely broke and we got to sell more bonds. We still have dollars that we can use to get started, and we have Big Picture underway right now.
All right.
And so we
But we
have
will
funding
have
for
to-
that to be able to do. We will have to sell, when we get started, Interlake and a couple of other
Okay,
projects, we'll
yeah.
have to sell more bonds for that.
All right, thank you. I guess I was hoping against hope. Okay. Anything more on this particular topic? We need to do the vote. Okay, so this is not one of the ones we need to do roll call, or is it? I don't think we do. All right, so all those in favor of approving this change order 290, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that's everyone. So this is approved. The change order 290 is
Thank you.
approved. Now we come to more complicated topics. All right, we're going to start the discussion with staff explaining this to.
Yes,
all of
thank
us.
you, President Watson, and good evening again. This is exciting. But before we begin, I do want to introduce Megan Hayden, our Director of Budget, and to her left is Lee Marquisio, who is our bond and levy counsel from the firm of Foster Garvey. I got that right. That's great. Okay, so jump right in here with a little bit of framing. The district seeks approval to renew the Educational Programs and Operations Levy, also known as the EP&O levy, and the Technology and Capital Projects Levy, sometimes referred to as the Capital Levy, every 4 years. The existing levies expire at the end of 2026. Voter approval in 2026 is required for the next levy cycle beginning in 2027. The two key levy measures are being recommended for the February 10th, 2026 election. The first one is Proposition 1 or Resolution 2025-14, which is the renewal of the EP&O levy. And then the second is Proposition 2, Resolution 2025-15, the renewal of the expiring Tech and CAP projects levy. As you know, these levies bridge the gap between what the state provides and what funding is required for students to have the tools, programs, and facilities they need to learn and thrive. So in a minute here, I'm going to turn it over to Megan, who is going to take you through a quick presentation that provides some background and overview of levies, the assumptions that we used in determining the recommended taxation amount and tax rate. There's a slide on historical collection of levies, which paints an interesting picture. And then finally, there's details with respect to the levy amounts and levy rates. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Megan.
Thank you, John.
It might not be on. Is it on?
There we go.
Okay, there we go. It's working now.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay,
you
no.
did it? So, every time I present, this doesn't work.
Well, now try it and see.
There we go.
Oh, it wasn't on there. Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. So tonight, as John mentioned, we have two renewal levy propositions in front of you. Proposition 1 is the Bellevue Educational Programs and Operations Levy, also known as the EP&O. And this is the levy that is deposited and utilized in our general fund. So we talk about it as our general fund levy. This Proposition 1 is to enrich the programs outside of the legislative definition of basic education. So we use this levy to fill state funding gaps. The levy collection formula for Proposition 1, the EP&O levy, is the lesser of a $2.50 tax rate per thousand of assessed value, or $3,851 per student, as an example for the calendar year 2026. Proposition 2 is our Technology and Capital Projects levy. This funds not only technology, but safety, security, and capital improvements. And there is no dollar limit like we see in the EP&O levy. The EP&O renewal levy, as mentioned, fills in the gaps of state funding. And so we will continue to fund critical day-to-day school operations, as well as high-quality teaching and learning, our CTE programs, 7-period day in the middle school and high schools, additional classroom staff. It also supports the well-being and safety of our students with counselors, nurses, mental health, social emotional, safety, and security staff. It also funds student programs not fully funded, programs as advanced learning, STEM, our advanced classes, and special education services. It also provides opportunities for our students, whether that is band and music, athletics, art and music in our elementary schools, and after-school activities. It also funds our district programs that are not fully funded, such as transporting our students to and from school on a day-to-day basis. Proposition 2 is our Technology and Capital Projects levy. As mentioned, it's capital and technology. Technology, it is exceptional education for all students, classroom technology and computer tablets for every student. It also provides STEM learning, access to new technology and software, and integrated digital curriculum. It also supports our operations technology. Think of our network, cybersecurity, and tech assistance. Capital project needs and funding comes from large-scale improvements to our school buildings. We were just talking about a change order that is funded, but that is by the bond. But large-scale improvements to our school buildings, repairs and maintenance for school buildings, and updates to athletic facilities and energy conservation. The next slide is our levy renewal amounts and projected tax rates for the 4-year levy starting in collections in 2027 through 2030. Again, it's a renewal levy, And the tax rates you see are per thousand of assessed value. So our EP&O levy for 2027 has a voter-approved amount of $88.3 million in 2027. For 2028, it's $93.2 million. For 2029, the voter-approved amount would be $97.9 million. And then in 2023, it'd be $103 million. We have a projected tax rate here of 75 cents per thousand, which was the projected tax rate for our current levy that we have in place right now. The Technology and Capital Levy, Proposition 2, has a levy voter-approved amount for 2027 of $64 million, for 2028, $67 million, 2029, $70 million, and 2023, $73 million, with a projected tax rate for those 4 years of 54 cents per thousand of assessed value. Again, the same projected tax rate we have on our current Technology and Capital Levy. So no change in the tax rates for both. For the EP&O levy, the assumptions we used was, again, this is a renewal levy, so we are maintaining the same tax rate, projected tax rate, as the 2022 levy election. We considered and utilized a 5% assessed value growth for each year. And we also, in the levy amounts, we are allowing room for the levy collections for growth for different reasons, such as maybe there are some CPI adjustments or some legislative impacts, and of course, enrollment increases. We also received feedback from internal and external stakeholders and community groups. Wanted to give an example of what we talk about here is the allowing for room for levy collection growth and for the difference between the voter approved. I wanted to emphasize that a little bit more by showing that in 2027, the voter approved amount would be $88.3 million with a projected tax rate of 75 cents per thousand of assessed value. However, based on our current student enrollment, we have a levy cap that we can only collect up to $80 million. So if we can only collect $80 million based on our current enrollment, our projected tax rate would be 68 cents. Again, we are capped based on our number of students. The impact of our local levies to our general fund is critical, as you can see in this chart that was shared back in August during our budget adoption of the 2025-26 budget. The levy revenue makes up 24% of our revenue budget for the school district. The slide here I want to show and point out is tax rates, current tax rates for the 2025 King County Schools tax rates. This is the local tax rates. And we can see here that Bellevue is the only district noted in the green, hopefully make it easier to identify, that with the bond and our current tech levy and our EP&O levy, our local schools tax rate is about $1.90 per thousand of assessed value. And the highest you can see here is Auburn at $4.48. Talking about tax rates a little bit further, this is showing actual tax rates for the last 12 years. And we can see that back in 2014, we had a local tax rate of around $3.19. And for the 2025 year, all the way to the right-hand side, it's noting $1.89. Want to point out and have you focus on the last 3 years here, the calendar years 2023, 24, and 2025. That's for our current levy we have in place. And as I mentioned, our projected tax rate back in 2022 when we were going out for the election was a projected tax rate of 75 cents per thousand. And as I talked about that levy cap we have for our per students, because we have that cap, you can see that our local levy tax rate's been 55 cents, 56 cents, and 58 cents. So well below the 75 cents based on that the collection versus the voter approved and leaving that. There was.
So just to clarify, the dark blue band at the bottom is the EP&O levy. So if you look at just the dark blue band, that's what Megan is talking about. Those last 3 years, we could collect, voters allowed us to collect 75 cents per 1,000 assessed value. But because of the cap, we're only able to collect 55, 56, or 58, so much lower than what was voter approved. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes. And then I believe this is our last slide on the renewal levy timeline. Is back in early October, we received approval from OSPI on our levy plan. That's needed before these two resolutions can come to you for a vote of approval. And then October 16th, we're presenting the draft resolutions for approval. And then by December 12th, the levy resolutions, if approved, need to be filed with the county elections office by December 12th. And then also at that same time, we have some, not only the voters pamphlet, but there's some explanatory statements and for and against statements that need to be also provided to the county. And then we have the notice of the election at the end of January. And then, of course, the very important date, February 10th, is the election.
Thank you, Megan. And just a couple of points I want to make. It's been Megan and John Esposito is in the back there with John. Give us a wave. John and Megan have been, the work that's gone on behind the scenes to, look at these assumptions and develop these numbers and rates. And it's been, really appreciate your efforts on this. As you can tell in the resolutions, the language is very legal. And this is where Lee has come in. There are the legislation around levies is pretty intense and it's pretty robust, and there are lots of legal requirements. So Lee, with our feedback and our input, has drafted the resolutions that you have before you tonight. And in the next few weeks, so when we talked about the explanatory statements and the explanatory statements, Lee and team, we're working on those as we speak. The for and against committees, you should see information tomorrow, hopefully on the website, advertising that requirement. So just wanted to mention the two people here, Megan on the numbers, Lee on the legislation. So thank you for your help so far. So this next piece is clearly we are seeking the board's adoption of the two resolutions known as Prop 1 and Prop 2. Lee has reminded me that each of those resolutions needs to be entertained by you separately, followed by a roll call vote. So I will turn it back to you, President Watson, and as long as we do Prop 1, Resolution 2025-14, and then Prop 2, 2025-15 in that order, that will be fantastic.
Okay. So now to start this process, we'll need a motion, and I think I will make the motion this time, to approve. I move that we approve Resolution 2025-14, Proposition Number 1, Renewal of Expiring Educational Programs and Operations Levy, as presented. And I believe I'm going to read it into the record aloud. Is that right?
Aloud, not necessary.
Oh.
Second.
So we don't need to read it out?
She said that there's no need to read it aloud.
I would, if your board policies or procedures.
I just thought that people should hear.
Oh, absolutely, it's
that's
allowed.
all.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
So here we go. Resolution number 2025-14. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Bellevue School District, number 405, King County, Washington, providing for the submission to the voters of the district at a special election to be held on February 10th, 2026 of a proposition authorizing an excess tax levy to be made annually for 4 years commencing in 2026 for collection in 2027 of $88,300,000 in 2027 for collection in 2028 of $93,200,000 and in 2028 for collection in 2029 of $97,900,000 and in 2029 for the collection in 2030 of $103 million for the district's general fund to pay expenses of educational programs and operations, designating the district's chief of staff, policy, public and legal affairs, and special counsel to receive notice of the ballot title from the Director of Elections of King County, Washington, and providing for related matters. Okay, that's a mouthful. So that is the resolution, the motion on the floor, and we have it seconded, and so now it's time for board director discussion. Would anybody like to discuss? Okay, Director Block.
So I will just voice as a novice that this particular resolution is and tax is the one that had me the most confused. So I'm gonna clarify some things in my own words to state my understanding, and if I get anything wrong, I'll invite you to correct me. So this is an excess levy. That's the term that's used. And essentially, we don't collect it all unless our enrollment is high enough that we can, because our enrollment and the multiplier on there creates a cap, which is the maximum amount that the district is actually eligible to collect. And every year, we, as a board, take a vote to approve how much we're going to collect in the next year based on the enrollment. So if somebody pulls up their taxes today, they might see that number 58 cents as what's currently being taxed, and they might see a number here of 75 cents. But that doesn't mean that the taxes are automatically going up to 75 cents. That means that is the maximum level of taxation the school district could collect during this period if enrollment expanded to the point where we had that need. So this is set at a level that's slightly larger than what we expect the enrollment could expand to make sure that we could collect money for the whole school district if needed. Correct?
Correct.
So that's great, and this is renewing. This is making the same assumptions for the tax rate that were used in the previous 2022 initiative or proposition, I guess is what it's called. So we're not increasing the excess levy rate. We're holding that exactly the same as it's been for the last 4 years. We're just rolling it forward, saying, hey, we do a great job using this money for all these different things we use it for, the 7-period day, the STEM programs, the nurses in the schools, the mental health counselors, things that the community is demanding and expects us to provide. So that's what this is. That's my understanding. Appreciate the time.
Okay, who's next? Anybody?
All right, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining what we use this fund for. I do want to kind of re-highlight the fact that levy covers almost 25%, 24 to 25% of our budget, which allows us to deliver the education that we have been delivering. And correct me if I'm wrong. But I also want to highlight a couple of important things that I think we've gotten used to and have been told by or reminded by our community, because that's all they know. They know our education. They have not experienced what it is outside of Bellevue, is that 7th period, the 7th period, is something we pay with our levy, as well as our extracurricular, additional STEM, all of the extra wonderful courses and experiences that we provide, including transportation to and fro. These are all part of the levy, correct? Thank you.
And I'll just, I guess, piggyback on Director Ars's comment. And just to the community, I think it's so critical that that we have listed exactly what the levy covers and kind of what it supports for our community to actually see. Because I know that being a novice and kind of coming in, I wasn't sure. I mean, you hear, oh, it supports education, it supports our students' experiences in the classroom, but what does that actually look like, right? And so I think that it was really great and ingenious for whoever did this to kind of lay out exactly how it's funded, what's funded by the state, where we're short, and what this levy actually supports. So that's all that I had to say. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to say a couple of things. I wanted to remind everybody that the rate used to be a lot more per 1,000 of assessed value, but then the McCleary decision came through and we got capped. So it used to be more. And I also want to address what I think is a big misconception out with the voters is that when you get that tax bill, which seems to just get outrageously large every single time because, on your house, the issue is it'll say somewhere in something, you'll see that it'll say this amount goes to education, this percentage of this goes, but what people in Bellevue don't understand is that some of that money is the state's piece. It goes up to the state and it only comes back per student. So I believe that we are actually on that part paying more than we actually get back. And so this levy is to kind of fill in some of the gaps that are there. So I really think there's a misconception in the community that, oh, they already get enough money. Well, you pay enough money, but we don't get it. And that's how that works. And if it's helping some other kids somewhere, I kind of, as somebody who's pro-education, feel that maybe that's a good thing, but I do wish we had a little more control here too. So there's that. And then I really appreciate that you've been able to keep the rate same as before, because that's a very good thing, the 75 cents. And I also want to emphasize that some neighboring districts, the one I always think is like our twin district, Lake Washington, their rate is going to be higher on 1,000 of assessed value, so their homeowners are going to be paying more. And also, I appreciate that we are going to the max that we are allowed to collect, but we have a cushion there in case things change. And I also think people are really upset about class size right now, and they're upset that there's not enough counseling, there's not a nurse in every building, and this is the only way to affect that. All right, enough from me.
Can I just make one comment? So one thing is the space, the buffer is in case enrollment goes up, but the other reason that we need the buffer is in case the legislature ever came back and said, we're going to allow you to collect more per student. If they said that would give us the ability to collect more money instantly without having to go back to the voters. So because we had buffer in this last levy that we did, when the legislature came through and approved in House Bill 2049 an increase in what we could collect, we could collect it right away. So other districts, they only approved exactly how much they could collect. And so even though the legislature came back and said you can collect more, they cannot because they don't have the voter approval. So I would say it's those two reasons, wouldn't you say? I think increase in enrollment and if the legislature allowed us to collect more per student.
Okay. Anything more need to be said about this? No. We are going to do a roll call vote. Okay. So I'm going to call the vote. It would be, all right, I can handle 4 names in order, I think. All right. Director Block.
Aye.
Carolyn Watson. Aye.
Monica Webster, aye.
Jane Norris, aye.
Okay. So the motion to approve resolution 2025-14 is now approved. So.
Thank you. And Ms. Nemel is going to put up the resolution for Prop 2 2025-15. Might want to make that a little bigger. There we go.
Okay. Does anybody down there have their heart set on it? Because logistically, it's easier if I just have Phil read it because he's got the paper. Okay. If he's willing to. I shouldn't assume. Okay. We need the motion first.
Motion to approve proposition number 2 well, I guess it's motion to approve resolution number 2025-15, which is proposition number 2, renewal of expiring technology and capital projects levy. This proposition reads, a resolution of the Board of Directors of Bellevue School District number 405, King County, Washington, providing for the submission to the voters of the district at a special election be held on February 10, 2026, of a proposition authorizing an excess tax levy to be made annually for 4 years commencing in 2026 for the collection in 2027 of $64 million, in 2027 for the collection in 2028 of $67 million, in 2028 for collection in 2029 of $70 million, and in 2029 for collection in 2030 of $73 million. For the district's capital projects fund to support the construction, modernization, and remodeling of school facilities by continuing to fund technology, school facility, and infrastructure improvements, designating the district's chief of staff, policy, public and legal affairs, and special counsel to receive notice of the ballot title from the District Director of Elections of King County, Washington, and providing for related matters.
So now we need a
Second.
Okay, good. All right, so now some discussion of this levy. Who would like to go first on that? I don't know. We're kind of like, yeah.
I'll just go briefly and say that we have done a lot of bonds for buildings, and we've rebuilt a lot of wonderful school buildings in Bellevue. A lot of those buildings are coming up now on 20 or 25 years, and they need things like new roofs, like new boiler systems, and things like that. And that's one of the big things that this type of levy pays for, as well as some of the technology that we use in our classrooms, which is perpetually improving and continuing to advance. And so this is a very important part of maintaining the excellence in our district and maintaining some of our facilities and the needs. I do want to recognize that, families in Bellevue pay a lot of taxes on their property. We have very valuable property. The tax rate has actually been stable or declining for school districts and the school tax funding. So if you compare this to, say, sales taxes, it's been going down. The rate on our taxes has been going down. It's a big number. I know that. I recognize that a lot of families see a fairly hefty tax bill when it comes to tax time, but this is really an important component, I feel, of funding for Bellevue schools and for keeping our district healthy and strong.
Okay. I could speak to this. I think that this is fantastic in the sense that our district is able to give a device to every student. And people may not know, obviously there's districts all over the country that can't do that, but also some of our local private schools don't. Maybe they could, but they don't. And so everyone has to bring their own device. But do you know what a burden that puts on teachers if everybody's got a different device and different software they're trying to run? The teacher has to circulate around and troubleshoot all kinds of software problems instead of actually like teaching the class. We're on the same page here. The other thing this levy pays for is things like our what do you want to call them? I want to call him the cybersecurity specialist, but the guy who keeps us safe here from phishing attacks and all kinds of ransomware and all of that stuff. Also, all our IT people that maybe help us run this meeting and keep us, we keep hearing about what's going on in technology and how we have to prepare the students to just really feel comfortable using professional technology. I guess they're already comfortable on TikTok, but get them, in the real world. So I really appreciate this levy, and let me pass it on to Director Aras.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that. I agree. I think having the ability to offer technology to all of our students really not only make it more equitable and close that gap, it helps our teachers move them a little bit more together and use less time on different devices and making sure everybody's on the same page in the same place. And also the safety in modern day, I think, is such an important aspect we have to constantly keep our eyes on, especially the technology, and to have that control as a district and making sure all of our students have the access and the same access is really crucial. So I appreciate this being presented to us.
And so I'll just go last here, and just thinking about, our focus on sustainability, it looks like it also covers our energy conservation studies, and it helps us with our kitchen facility improvements and things like that. And so I just wanted to add that note. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for seeing that. I didn't notice it. All right, so here we are. If anybody's got anything else to say, now's the time to mention it. Otherwise, we're going to do a roll call.
Gosh, can I say something?
Sure.
What you said is so true. I was just talking with Jack about this because I think the energy conservation, when we're using a lot of this money to help add like solar panels to buildings, and we were talking about how, Stevenson went from 17 cents a square foot down to 2 cents a square foot. But even our newer buildings, or our buildings that are not as new, but we are finding ways to make them more environmentally sustainable, but which is also saving money in our operations budget. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, so now we will go to the roll call vote, and I'll say Director Block.
Director Block, aye.
Director Watson, aye. Director Webster?
Aye.
Director Aris?
Aye.
All right. Yeah, I was saying, I think we could go either way. I say, you say. All right.
Thank you, Board.
So
Much appreciated.
here we are. That was the hard part tonight. Okay, so next we have the approval of our 2026 legislative priorities, and let's have staff speak to that.
We can do that. We'll put the document on the screen. Welcome, Dr. Jackson. You saw the first draft on Monday, and there's been a couple of changes that I want to highlight. And I also just want to very quickly give you more of the community an overview of our legislative priorities for the 2026 legislative session. Our primary priorities are what have become affectionately known as the Big Three. And the reason why these three things have become known as that is every state organization, most districts coalesced around three areas of state funding that have the most significant gaps. So the Big Three are student transportation, and second is special education, and third is material supplies and operating costs. The change from Monday is the order. So you will notice that the order is the order that you recommended on Monday, with student transportation leading the way, and starting with that first sentence, which is, I believe, an addition, that this BSD urges the 2026 legislature to restore transportation safety net funding. With respect to special education, the legislature did improve funding and close the gap, but there's still a significant gap. And here in Bellevue, it's a deficit of 29 million. So we're urging the legislature to fully fund special education. And with materials, supplies, and operating costs, the basic problem is that the funding from the state is not kept up with inflation to cover the essential costs of operating our schools. The next several priorities are indicated as additional legislative priorities. So they're important, but they're not our main priorities. The very first one is equitable school funding. We are committed as a district to encouraging our legislature to use the findings of the K-12 equity funding work group that Dr. Aramaki is a member of and referenced earlier this evening as a foundation for a comprehensive review of the current funding structure. There are some structural challenges with state education funding, and we're hopeful that this committee and its findings will help the legislature along the way. This is an addition. The second one, mitigate the impact of statewide enrollment declines, is an addition at your request on Monday. And basically, as you know, the state funding model is tied to student enrollment, and it at times amplifies this financial instability when districts have to make staffing and program reductions when enrollment loss is a reality. So what we're encouraging the legislature to do is explore strategies to mitigate the impact of enrollment loss, such as basing allocations on a 3-year rolling average of student enrollment rather than a single-year count. Early childhood education or preschool, you heard this evening about the power of preschool, and we encourage the legislature to increase and continue to advocate for legislation that supports preschool. Student mental health and well-being, again, this has been one of our priorities for the last several years. As we all know, student mental health was a challenge before the pandemic, completely exacerbated throughout the pandemic and the pandemic's recovery. So we would love additional support from the state to support student well-being and mental health. Affordable housing has also been on our list of priorities for the last several years. We've talked tonight about the high cost of housing in Bellevue, and we need to be a more inclusive and sustainable community with affordable housing. So that continues to be an area that we support the legislature on, legislation that increases and makes more affordable housing available. And finally, this is a new one for us. And a number of state organizations have made this, have established the same priority, and it's to do with the amount of priorities, policies, requirements that on an annual basis the state approves. Dozens of new pieces of legislation every year, which may or may not have a funding implication, but there's a capacity challenge in implementing new regulations, new rules, new policies and legislation. And then, of course, the famous unfunded mandates. So we're basically asking the legislature in this session to cease or limit the new legislative policies and requirements to allow school districts to focus on helping students thrive academically. So those are the draft legislative priorities, and we are seeking your approval, which is has been your practice over the last several years, your approval of these legislative priorities so we can finalize them and share them and work with our legislators to get some action in this session.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on this so that we could start the discussion?
All right, I'll do that. I move to approve the 2026 legislative priorities.
Second.
Okay, we got a second. Let's start the discussion. Who would like to start? Director Ars?
Yeah, I do have a quick comment. Some of the changes that we made, especially the big three, we put transportation ahead of special education. I just want to make sure our public understands it's not that we think less of special education, but being more strategic, knowing that this is not a budget year, but more of a decision maker. And in case for whatever reason there's extra dollars allowed, that we could find something that they would consider putting into transportation, knowing that the probability of them putting more money into special education is not likely.
Sure, I'll just go and I'll just reiterate something that I said on Monday, and that is I'm really glad that we're prioritizing transportation. I mean, especially with our enrollment being the way that it is, and we heard that today that we are on the upswing, but we also, have kids that are coming back from private schools as well. And so as we are seeing growth in our district, I think that focusing on ways that we can support additional students coming in, the transportation issues that we're seeing at some of the schools just because of all the cars cars that are coming into the parking lots and those challenges with tardies and absenteeism and things. I think it's really a good idea to focus on transportation. And I really love that we added that last bullet around the pause and the new requirements without additional funding. I think that will be key. Thank you.
All right. Director Block?
Sure. Yeah, I'll reflect that I think we're all big fans of the transportation and in particular the safety net. One of the things that's happened very rapidly in the last few years in Bellevue is the rapid increase in the number of homeless students who are part of Bellevue School District, and we call those McKinney-Ventos students. That's the legislation that provides them with access to certain resources. That population has exploded in Bellevue, and in the wisdom of the last legislative session, they eliminated some of the transportation benefits that were supporting those students, and so it's really an important issue for Bellevue as we try to support those students and make sure that they have access to our schools. As we emphasize, absenteeism's a challenge for students if they don't have a steady home and they don't have a way to get to school. How on earth are we supposed to educate them? So that's part of the rationale behind that, and I appreciate having that first. That last one is going to be an interesting one because I think we all on pausing or limiting legislative policies and requirements. I think we all recognize that the legislature is facing some pretty severe financial headwinds this year, and one of their favorite things to do when they don't have budget to allocate is to look at policies and requirements. And so it is quite likely that we'll see a number of proposals during the legislative session. And I know there were some in the last couple legislative sessions that are now coming back year after year that haven't passed. I know there was one around increasing graduation requirements, adding maybe computer science to that or maybe something else. And so this is basically saying that we don't want to see those right now. We're digesting all the things that have happened since the pandemic, and we want to make sure that we're providing the best schools we can, given the current framework that we have. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay. So what I'd like to say about this is what happens at the federal level in Congress and so forth. People pass laws that are very, good laws, well-intentioned laws. And so, for example, McKinney-Vento, the thing where we need to provide some transportation, you become homeless, your whole life is disrupted. And before this came through, you might have to, wherever you're homeless, go to a different school district, lose all your school friends, lose your everything. And so this is to really reduce some of the trauma on the kid who's just lost their housing. And then same thing with, years ago, we got the free and appropriate public education that every special needs student, every student would have a free and appropriate public education. So these are all passed at the federal level. It's all good. We're all behind it. Well, I speak for myself. Many of us are behind it. But then they don't fund it, so it's up to the state to fund it. So you've got one group of people saying, here's what you should do, and then we've got up in Congress, and you got another group in the state legislature saying, hey, we just don't have the money, we're gonna cut, we're gonna trim, you're not gonna have the money that you need to do this. So that's where the disconnect comes, which is why we need to put this on the top of our list. And I wanna remind voters that increasing special needs funding helps all kids, because there's universal design for learning. Some of the lessons that might be targeted to, for example, a dyslexic kid, could help any kid who's learning to read. And it also puts more staff, more paraeducators in the classroom to help manage all kinds of issues that come up in the classroom. We're worried at this time of large class sizes. This is helpful. The other thing I wanted to say is I went to a talk at WASDA once where the guy who was leading the talk's whole point was the number of things that have been added to our plate over the years. And he had this poster, I'm going to finish my thought, which I didn't get because every other school board director there grabbed one before I could, where he showed year by year how many additional things just get added to educators' plates over and over and over. So that really struck me. So I see why you listed that. Okay, I'm done. Director Ars?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring a little more clarity to the transportation funding and McCleary. I think what we actually, Director, Executive Harrison, if you know I don't know if you know the number off the top of your head, but how much we spend on transportation for our McNevento students this past year? No, you don't. Okay. It is, I mean, obviously it's been growing. I think it's tripled since pre-pandemic as far as the spending is concerned. And it is mandatory. We don't, and it's a good mandatory, but there's no fund. I mean, the little funding that there was, which we didn't get a ton of because there's a cap amount for the whole state. The number of students who are homeless is growing all over, and funding is not serving our students in general. What little there was is no longer, and we need to actually bring it back with multiple folds. So it's become another unfunded mandate.
Okay, anybody else before we take the vote? I don't think this one needs to be roll call, does it? No. Okay, so all those in favor of the 2026 legislative priorities as written, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't hear any opposition, so that passes. And now we're going to have to go on to the first reading of the proposed revisions to policy 3241. But we don't have to vote on that tonight. Okay.
That's true.
Good.
Thank you, President Watson. And I want to introduce my colleague, Dr. William Jackson. You may have been wondering why he was sitting here for the legislative priorities. It's because I called him up because I thought we were on the policy item. So my apologies, William. Welcome again. Okay. All right. So policy 3241, proposed revisions. Back in September 2017, the school board at the time voted to eliminate short-term suspensions as a corrective action. And the reason for that was very, very well intended. The volume of suspensions, of short-term suspensions being imposed was significant, including a large number of students in the younger elementary grades who were experiencing exclusionary discipline. And more importantly was the disproportionate impact on students from marginalized groups, specifically students of color, students with IEPs, and students experiencing poverty. Over the past several years, I should say, there has been an increase in reported incidents of discriminatory acts and language where students have been victims of slurs, racial slurs, stereotyping, offensive jokes, exclusion, and including conduct that is clearly discrimination and or harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And this is an increase in reported incidents. What this doesn't cover, of course, is those incidents that don't get reported for reasons of fear and other reasons, things that we just don't hear about. Over the last several years in listening sessions, empathy interviews, focus groups, you've heard in public comment many times, we consistently heard from students in particular, as well as families, that the belief was that school staffs either didn't take reports of discrimination seriously and or that schools were limited in how they held offenders accountable for their actions. So last year when we did our strategic planning process and we conducted empathy interviews, we heard this again. And so these comments and concerns expressed to us informed the foundational goal in our 25-26 annual plan, and I'll quote, to build system-wide understanding of beloved community, interrupt discrimination through improved processes and procedures, and establish belonging and trust baselines using survey data. So we added a foundational goal this year in our annual plan. Last school year, and this is where Dr. Jackson comes in, the equity design team that he leads along with Director of Employee Relations, Janisha Branch, an equity specialist for BIPOC Educators Coordinator, Freedom Johnson, whom you met tonight, intentionally used our EDDM process to shape the engagement and review of student behavior policy and procedure. William and others did some targeted outreach with affinity-based student groups, families and community members, and staff networks. We also did additional outreach with affinity-based community groups where participants raised similar concerns about the increasing number of discriminatory acts and language in schools, and that underreporting was a significant issue. So to that end, this summer, in one of the procedures, there's several procedures to Policy 3241. One of them is 3241P, which is basically the list of behavioral violations. We created a new violation titled Discriminatory Language and Acts, defined as any words, verbal or written, behaviors, conduct directed at a person or group unfairly, disrespectfully, or differently based on characteristics such as race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, disability, etc. Whether or not the language rises to the level of discrimination in Policy 3210 or harassment, intimidation, and bullying in Policy 3207. So what we are bringing forward for your feedback and consideration this evening are is a revision to Policy 3241 that would permit an exception to no short-term suspensions, specifically for discriminatory acts and language, as long as the building leader has approval from either the chief of schools or the director of student engagement. And then, consistent with the EDDM process, that was the summer work. We had a series of meetings where we went through that language and tossed it around and iterated and ended up including it in the procedure. So the procedural language has been done, and we're looking for, hopefully, not tonight, but in second reading, your adoption of the proposed significant revision, which is to allow administrators an exception to no short-term suspensions for the specific purpose of discriminatory acts and language. And I'll ask Dr. Jackson to fill any blanks that I may have missed. Did I cover everything? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you. I will say that I have the privilege of working on the legislative priorities as a member of Dr. Aramaki's advisory group, so I felt right at home. And it's okay. I feel, board, I appreciate you moving forward with those the big three priorities. Regarding our foundational goal of beloved community, there is an arc that we see as belonging, and that is, it's really important that we focus on our professional learning and development along that arc. But there's also addressing harm, and this is where that lives. And this is where our educators, families, students, and community have really pushed us to see how we can address harm in our schools. And this is one strategy that our school leaders can use as they build restorative, beloved, warm, and welcome school environments. This is what we've heard, and this is what we see as a worthwhile and caring response for all of our students to create safety in our community.
All right, Director Webster.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. And I know that you worked really hard with the equity design team, Dr. Jackson, on bringing this proposal forward. And I'll just reiterate something that I said on Monday. And I think that it was fantastic that you all got right on it. You identified the issue, you brought it to cabinet, leadership took swift action to make sure that our kids were safe, because I think that having these kinds of experiences are extremely disruptive to our students' learning experiences. And so kudos to your equity design team, kudos to Superintendent Aramaki and the whole cabinet for moving swiftly for the well-being of all of our students. I also think that it was really important that you all utilize the EDDM process in engaging the community. And so I'm really happy to see that you all have done that as well. And then Dr. Jackson, this question is really going to be addressed to you today, because I think that it's important for us as a board to understand this and for our community to hear. But one of the things that I think is really important to understand is what happens when the student returns from these short-term suspensions. I'm just wondering if there is any kind of an educational opportunity for these kids, who have maybe unintentionally, harmed another student as a result, and just kind of understanding their actions or reactions, and understanding kind of the why, right? Why it was inappropriate, how they impacted the space for other students, and kind of have that opportunity for some self-reflection. So I'm hoping that you can answer that today for us.
Sure. Do we go through the? Oh, sounds good.
We'll batch them.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, so who- All right. Okay. I want to, first of all, defend the old board that passed the other policy, because I was actually there at the time, and it seems sort of reasonable, because we were looking at these big spreadsheets of the disproportionality of who was getting suspended and all of that. And so I will say this is one of those things that needs fine tuning with experience over time. And I think we went a little too far in one direction, and now it's time to get it right, or get it closer to right. So I also know that at the time, I spoke to some students who were saying that they were skeptical that this was going to work because, the no suspensions for anything, because what would happen would be it didn't fall under bullying per se, because the bullying, when you fill out the HIB form, you have to say it's a repeated thing, it's the same perpetrator, blah, 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 blah. And that what they were trying to explain to us was that you might be walking down the hall, one day somebody calls you, gives you a racial slur and disrupts you and you feel bad. The next day, it's a different kid. And 3 days later, it's a different kid. And you just don't feel safe or part of the environment. But since it's a different kid every time, it doesn't really fit under it. You can't fill out a bullying form. Sometimes you don't even know who it was. But, so it's like this 1,000 cuts in just making you feel unsafe. And we tried to tweak some language in some other policy, but it didn't do it. It seems that our administrators need a tool to deal with discrimination, and a tool that will call this to the attention of the family. Because what happens is, a kid might get in some small amount of trouble, spoken to, whatever, and then, oh, I was only joking. Oh, it wasn't that big a deal. Oh, Mom, don't worry about it. I was just joking. They just can't take a joke. And so this is like sending that message. This is serious, and this has to stop, and we need to watch what we're saying. Okay, who's next?
Sure. I appreciate the reason why this is coming to us. I think that there do need to be bright lines, and that this is definitely one of the areas where there needs to be a bright line highlighting that you shouldn't cross this line, that there will be real ramifications. One of the things that I do have some concerns about, or I'm trying to understand, is how there's been a lot of blurring between private communication and school communication as technology's advanced, and understanding how that applies with this. If somebody, for example, uses social media or something else, and it's outside of school, they do it on their own time, how would this policy interact with those sorts of situations when they are BSD students and things like that? It's also highlighting to me that I don't know enough about our policies and procedures related to discipline, and I don't quite understand how they all play out. I know that I can speak to several examples of what to me would be significant events that have happened at the schools I've been associated with, from students going to off-site locations and stealing alcohol and consuming it on the campus, to students keeping a list of threats of other students and things like that. And wanting to make sure that I'm understanding how some of these other things that are also extremely serious are being dealt with and managed, so that we're appropriately calling out where that bright line is for a suite of activities. I totally recognize and acknowledge that there has been historic disproportionality and that there's no intent to return to days where that's not promoted, but seen as acceptable, and trying to find the right balance as we continue to adjust these policies and procedures is kind of the goal. Thanks.
Director Ars.
Yeah. As always, I appreciate all the hard work that is, thoughts everyone puts into improve our system, and I do appreciate us being in this place and recognizing not just putting things into policy, but an action behind our policy that will create hopefully more fruit of limiting or eliminating behaviors that really harms our students and actually staff and community at large. So, honestly, I'm not a big fan of suspension, but I think at this point it may be a prudent step to create some of that shock and awareness to our larger community, which is getting satiated with a lot of inappropriate words that is being thrown around and harming our students and community at large. So I think this is a good move. That said, looking at the marked up version of the policy, going down to, can you scroll down to line?
Apologies, can you give us the line number?
Sure. I'm looking at the old marked up version of.
The line should be numbered, or the line's numbered in that version?
129.
There we go. Yeah.
Can you pause right there? One of the comments that I made on Monday is to make sure that we have a representation of our community, our students who are furthest away from education justice, and making sure that it is embedded into this committee. And I'm not really seeing any clear language that says there will be a representation of our students who are constantly, well, there's a greater number of students who end up in this space than others. And so I'm curious, how that's going to be phrased in here.
Can you clarify, are you talking, so the line's a little bit off because we don't have the marked up version.
I'm looking at the marked up version.
So can you read the bullet that you're talking about?
So the marked up version is 129, one administrative representative affiliated with the district's equity, which has been slashed out, community engagement, and or community development department and team and alternate. And that was all, after engagement, everything was slashed at exception of alternate. And so I'm just trying to understand why that was taken out, and I don't see a replacement of language that would make sure that we have a clear support for our students who are constantly scrutinized.
Got it.
Okay. I'll take Director Webster's question, if that's appropriate. Alrighty, school leaders, from my experience and from my peers that are working extremely hard to build communities, they have the goal of being instructional leaders in building warm and welcoming environments that are caring, loving, joyful, but also rigorous. They have the responsibility to ensure school safety. Criterion 2 from the Association of Washington School Principals, criterion is establishing school safety. There's 4 areas in school safety. And first, it's physical and emotional. But within physical and emotional safety, 4 areas: prevention, intervention, crisis response, and recovery. And the biggest challenge that our school leaders are facing right now, when a victim shares their harm around racism or discrimination, is we do have the teaching, there's prevention. We do have the setup. We even have teachers and students that are co-teaching microaggressions training right now in their schools. So we're doing amazing work at prevention. But there's the gap of the prevention, crisis response. Now we're in recovery. So there's to your question. What happens now when a victim or a student who has shared that they've been harmed, our principals and assistant principals are in this quandary. So now they have a few different strategies. One right now is that I know, and Chief of Schools, Aaron Miller, can correct me. There's one tool that some of our principals and assistant principals are using, and that's responding to bias incidents in middle and high schools. Resources, best practices for administrators and educators. This is from the Anti-Defamation League. Some school leaders use restorative circles. Other school leaders use mediations. And we can go into the nuances of what these look like. And some use teaching, like microaggressions. However, there isn't a consequence. These have been replaced with consequence. So what this will allow is the consequence. Then if the victim of this shares that they would love to step into a circle, or love to step into healing, or love to learn more about how they can be a team teacher in microaggressions, this gives the authority for the real learning to happen. So a student who feels harmed doesn't feel like they're brought into a situation that is unsafe. And so this is where the learning happens, and this is where the opportunity for us to build capacity grows.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I will also just add very, briefly to that, is that if punishment alone worked, we wouldn't have the recidivism rate that we have in incarcerated people, for example. So we're an educational environment, education first, a suspension without follow-up and education and support of the perpetrator makes for an ineffective, policy. And in fact, at the beginning of the policy, there is language there that talks about restorative processes, et cetera. One of the Director Block's question about actions that occur in public, in private over the weekend in someone's home, over social media, generally, and so much in this nation is determined through jurisprudence. The courts have been very, very favorable in cases where incidents occur with the potential for student safety, disruption of the learning environment, to deal with those events that happen on social media or at a weekend party. So for example, at a weekend party, there happens to be, a fight between a couple of people or more than a couple of people, and those people are in the same math class first period on a Monday morning. There's clearly potentially a disruption to the learning environment or student safety, so the school has the ability to engage in investigating the actions of the students involved. And the other question you asked, Director Block, was around and I can't stand the word discipline. In fact, the policy was renamed when the board did the revision back in 2017. It's not called, we don't refer to as student discipline, we call it corrective actions and/or interventions. So there's one corrective action interventions policy, it's this one, 3241. There's a series of procedures that speak to different aspects of implementation of said policy. So policies like discrimination, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, they deal with the action, but the consequences are applied under 3241. So that's how that works. And I appreciate Director Aris's concern with line 129. That one deals with the parent representative to DAC. And you as a board have had this conversation a number of times. If Monica, if you could scroll down a little bit to right there, a little bit higher. It must be higher than that. There is a line that speaks to.
It's like 138.
Pardon me?
I think it's 138, 139.
There we go. The superintendent or designee will work to create avenues to have a diverse array of candidates considered for membership on the Discipline Appeal Council. So that's basically the concerns have been sometimes our parent representatives and our administrative representatives have not been representative of the community that we serve or the diversity of the community that we serve. So
I think Director Aris's point was
I got
that
it. Yeah, I got it. I'll come back to that. But that line was added to ensure that we're cognizant that that's a challenge, and we need to make every effort to try and ensure. With respect to the administrator, I think that's a really good point. The intent of the change was with reorganizations, the Department of Equity no longer exists, but just including the Department of Community Engagement limits the representative to just a couple of people. So we have a challenge with the reductions to, because they have to be administrators. So that's really good feedback. The way that it's worded currently, the change doesn't reflect our intent. So I'll work on that and come in second reading, come back with a proposed change to reflect what I think you're trying to get at, Director Aris.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing at the line 139 or 138 and 139. I do have an ask that if it's a designee, I would love for somehow incorporate language which says that whoever, however we come to making sure that there's a representation, that whoever is representing the underprivileged or the students furthest away from education justice has training on equity. I think and I'd love to make sure that we incorporate that language into the policy.
That's great. And an invitation, you'll recall last meeting when we had a couple policies before you, after first reading, I give you a link to a document where you can provide your individual feedback. So if you've got language in mind, Director Aris, I would love to get your feedback on that. And of course, other members of the board. So in your update tomorrow, you'll have the opportunity to provide feedback prior to second reading that I can incorporate in the second reading version when we get there.
I have one more thing, I'm sorry. I do have a couple of other just quick things. One, speaking about the DAC, it just reminded me of the student that came and spoke from Bellevue High School. And I do wonder, since she is one of the leaders of SOAR, I think, or the BSU at Bellevue, I think there may be a conflict of interest to have a kid serving on DAC. I'm not sure, but I'm just wondering if there's an educational opportunity, if that is the case, for someone to engage with that group, just to let them know if there are some conflicts of interest, why that can't happen. If that's the case, I'm not sure. But just following up with that group, I think would be really important. And then the second thing, and I really appreciate what you said about having the victim, right? The person who felt took on the receiving end of those racial slurs or what have you, discrimination, to make sure that they feel comfortable with whatever that restoration process engagement looks like. Super important. My son, I know many people know, has high functioning autism. And I think that, a kid that has a neurodivergent condition like that can't go into some of these spaces, right? Because they don't feel safe, right? And so I think that it is really important to make sure that the victim is a part of what that restoration process looks like. And then the last thing, and this is really just for us as a board, I think that what happened with that policy should serve as a gentle reminder for us to really think about the impact of the decisions that we make and how they have unintended consequences, right? Unintentional consequences that really impact our students. And so I think that though well-intentioned, we need to really be thinking about the decisions that we make and how, we can potentially cause harm. And I think that ADEM process is something that we have in place now to try to catch some of those things.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add something. I think next time it'd be better if we could catch it a little faster. I think it's been some large number of years that we've known that this was a thing. And then the other thing, I just had a wondering. I wonder if when we're selecting the adults to sit on the DAC, whether we could somehow give preference to somebody who has either been the family member or in their school days been on the receiving end of disciplines so that they might be better able to advocate for kids who, we have enough people on the administrator side, is what I mean, but we don't have people who have really experienced the student who's being disciplined side. So I was just wondering if that was something we could look for.
That's valuable. Thank you.
Yes. That's good. That's good feedback.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that, okay,
So I just want to acknowledge, it
Yeah.
looks like maybe the person who was trying to give a public comment earlier is trying again, so.
back online. Ah,
Good
all right.
Should we try again?
Third time's a charm?
Thank you, board.
Thank you, board.
Yeah. Okay, should we try here, John? If, or, I don't know, big title, Mr. Harrison, Chief of Staff, or what? Okay. To get that one parent back online? Yeah.
She might have to come next time.
Okay, we might just have to move on, unless we can do it like in 1 second,
Trying a different email address, and this hopefully will work.
all right? Because we have, let's see, what time is it? Oh, we're way over time. So unless we can get that on in a second, we'll have to move on. Oh, yeah, we are way over.
Yeah, you should be able to unmute yourself if you, there we go.
Yeah. Can you hear me? You
We can.
Yes,
Oh, that's
thank
great.
you.
That's amazing. Yeah. So, my name is Meghna Subramanian, and I'm the mom of a student at Interlake High School. I'm speaking regarding the superintendent blog post, Celebration, Goodbye, and Gratitude, which described outgoing General Counsel Shannon McMinmee, who has now transitioned out of the district as an advocate for the student and families. Based on the experience of our family and our child, that characterization arises an important governance question about the accuracy and review of the statements made in official district communications. Specifically, I'm asking here, what formal process does the district follow to source, review, verify information included in the communication, such as the superintendent's blog before publication? And how does the board ensure these statements reflect accurate and balanced perspective, consistent with its public accountability obligations? Thank you for your time and attention to this matter.
Okay, thank you. Now, given that we are so far over, we have time for director discussion, but I think we have like a minute each, like if we have something super important to say. Yeah. All right, Director Aris, you look like you have something important
Yeah,
to say.
today's the last day to fulfill WASDA positions.
Oh, good idea. Very good idea. We all need to go home and do that. All right.
Just looking forward to the visit to Digital Discovery next week.
Okay, so, well, I thought I was next.
Yeah, you're next.
If I'd had time, I was going to explain to you a whole bunch of stuff of what council does, but we will do that next time. Go ahead.
I'm going to celebrate the restart of the Environmental Sustainability Working Group. We had about 25 students here last Wednesday, and it's great to see them returning to continue moving the district forward towards its environmental sustainability goals.
Okay, great. Thanks for that speed round. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go on break to stretch our legs for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to go into the other room and start quicker than we usually do to try to make up some time. This meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors is now adjourned at 9 p.m.
Nice job.